Hi, I'm Beth Wyko, features editor for the Tribune Chronicle, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make apple cake. This is a recipe that my mom made while I was growing up. It originally came from the St. Mary's Church cookbook in Warren, Ohio. This is a great recipe to use with local apples from Hartford or Lordstown or wherever you like to get Northeast Ohio apples. We're going to start by peeling some apples. I already have some apples peeled here, and we're going to need 4 cups of apples total. So I'm going to chop off the ends here. Give it a nice slice. I did learn a good trick for keeping your apples from browning. That isn't really a necessity for this recipe because you're going to be baking them anyway. But if you're slicing apples for your kids or for a snack later on and you don't want them to become brown, all you have to do is soak the apples in cold salt water. And you don't want a very strong solution. We're talking about half a teaspoon of salt per quart of water, which is 4 cups. And if you soak the apples in this for about 3 to 5 minutes, your apples will not brown. Okay, now that we have our apples sliced, we're going to work with our dry ingredients. Okay, we're going to start with 2 cups of flour. I use gluten-free flour because I have celiac disease. If you don't have celiac, just use regular all-purpose flour. I'm going to add 2 cups of sugar. Okay, this is my 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and I also have a half teaspoon of xanthan gum in there. Okay, we're going to use a teaspoon of baking powder. Then we have a half teaspoon of salt. Then we're going to use a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then we're going to use a half teaspoon of nutmeg. And that's all the dry ingredients we're going to need. And we'll set this aside for now. We're going to start working with our other ingredients here. We have our 4 cups of apples, and to that I'm going to add a half cup of chopped walnuts. You can omit the chopped walnuts if you'd like. My sister isn't a big fan of nuts, so sometimes my mom doesn't always put the walnuts in there. But they taste good with the apples, and you can also substitute a different kind of nut if you'd like. If you'd prefer to have pecans, which are one of my favorites, those would be very good in this as well. Then we're going to add a half cup of softened butter. Divide that up a little bit here. Okay, now we're going to mix the dry and the wet ingredients together. So I'm going to dump in my flour mixture here. And this is a recipe that you really don't need a mixer with. I find that as long as I use a little elbow grease here, get everything mixed up with a wooden spoon, it turns out just fine. Okay, and once everything's pretty evenly coated, we're going to add the eggs. We're going to use 2 eggs. And then we just keep stirring it all up until all of the ingredients are incorporated. We're going to take a 9x13 baking dish. We're going to give it a little bit of a grease here with our butter wrapper. And then we're going to spoon our batter into the pan. You can spread it out a little bit, but like I said, it'll all come together in the oven. Okay. Now we're going to bake this at 325 degrees for 1 hour. The finished apple cake is fantastic when it's warm, but the leftovers are good for a few days. I sometimes like to eat it for breakfast because there's apples and walnuts in it, so it's healthy, right? It's also very good if you have a scoop of ice cream with it. Vanilla ice cream is always very good. It's kind of like apple pie a la mode. But I bet butter pecan, which is my favorite ice cream, would also be very good. Now you know how to make apple cake, and you can enjoy this fall treat with your family and friends.